there are even much more interesting counter rules, which are opposite rules, which are rules which allow you something on condition that you don't use the freedom. You are given a choice on condition that you don't use the choice. This is how my books offers to be rejected. You know, all these strange situations like, I don't know, let's say I do something horrible to you and I apologize. What's the proper thing for you to do? To tell me, of course, listen, you don't have to apologize, it's not necessary. But that's the proper way to accept my apology. Or, you know, all those proverbial situations like, I don't know, let's say I'm rich, you are poor, which is not true, but let's say. Then I invite you to dinner. Of course, when the bill arrives, you have to insist a little bit that you will pay, no? But we both know that I will pay at the end. But it's politeness. All this stuff where, again, there is an apparent choice which has to be rejected. At this level, again, ideology functions. So, very briefly, if you allow me, and to conclude, why do I think our present situation now is ominous? Because I think what is changing now are not so much the explicit rules as the implicit rules which tell us how to relate to the explicit rules. This thick network of implicit customs that Hegel, my favorite philosopher, would have called Sittlichkeit or objective spirit, the substance of customs, of mores. Not morality in this abstract sense, but just this network of presuppositions which are the basis of our freedom. We should never forget a point made by a guy with whom I disagree politically, but I appreciate him very much as a philosopher, Robert Pippin, the great Chicago Hegelian, in a wonderful essay on civility. He emphasized how these elementary rules of kind behavior, how we address each other and so on, this is an absolute condition of free individuality. Without this substance, in the sense of thick network of implicit rules, which should be, as it were, our second nature, we obey them spontaneously, we cannot act as free individuals. So what worries me is if things change at this level. And to conclude, just 2 points. First, did you notice, for example, how suddenly things change at the level of this implicit rule with regard to global warming? Did you notice how up to, I would say, around a year ago, even less, the predominant reaction to those who warned that there may be a catastrophe ahead was, these are exaggerations, we don't really know it, it's a paranoia of ex-communist apocalyptic people and so on. All of a sudden, a year or less ago, the tone shifted. All of a sudden, global warming is accepted. Like, what's the problem? Of course it will happen, but the message is now we should also look at the good side of it. When you get upset, it's like a report announced on CNN on the greening of Greenland. Like, wait a minute, they already grow salad and whatever on Greenland and corn, and if the ice melts on the Arctic, how it will be much cheaper to bring all the cheap stuff from Chinese gulags This is, I think, a terrible moment when something which, at the level of this gut sense of ethical substance, was unacceptable, is all of a sudden normalized, as if nothing happened. And the same again is happening at different levels. Let me give you an example from the United States and an example from Europe. In the United States, it's the obvious example, torture. And again, I repeat it always, I'm not naive when people tell me, but how can you criticize the United States for torture when, aren't you aware that in China or where they torture much more? I know, but what worries me is the surface. What worries me is that all of a sudden it became acceptable to talk about, even if you don't accept it. But nonetheless, the topic is acceptable. We publicly debate it. I consider this a regression. Why ethical? Let me give you a parallel. Imagine rape. Would you, if you are women or men, Would you like to live in a society where you would have to debate all the time, should the women be raped or not? No, I would like to live in a society where when somebody advocates rape, he simply disqualifies himself. You know, he's a jerk. Don't take it seriously. I would be very much worried if all of a sudden we would have to argue why women shouldn't be raped. And I would like to be the same with torture. Or in Europe, we have something, for example, I remember till 5 years approximately ago, there was a silent pact that radical right-wing neo-fascist parties should not be considered should not be allowed to participate in power. This was kind of an absolute pact. They are out. All of a sudden, the prohibition was suspended. First Austria, then Italy, and so on and so on. These changes, which are not the big visible changes, it's what effectively worries me. And to conclude, if you read the Republican National Convention at this level, with the glasses of they live, you know, like, okay, they are talking this, but what are they really? What's the message? I think we should be also a little bit worried. I will not go into obvious things that we all know, but I think it's a really tragic event. First, I claim the American liberal left is paying the price for, first, its politically correct stupidity, the way feminism was squeezed into politically correct jacket, and also the ignorance of working class, in the sense of, you know, working class of the stupid, redneck, anti-family, and so on and so on. All today's leftists in Europe, even more than here, I'm not practicing America barefoot now, they feel very much ill at ease with the working class. No, they are the old-fashioned. Today's left likes, you know, new dynamic managers who are, as Tony Negri put it, almost communists already, and so on. So what I'm saying is that there's the revenge there. Something important happened at the level of these implicit rules. As Jacques Miller, whom I'm again politically opposed, but he made a nice observation apropos Sarah Palin, it's that something nonetheless happened here, which is what? That's his thesis. I think it's problematic, but basically correct. That till Sarah Palin, to cut a long story short, feminine politicians played a role of like phallic women, in the sense of more men than men themselves, as people, you know, like Margaret Thatcher, my God, Indira Gandhi, up to Hillary Clinton, there was something of that. Sarah Palin functions in a different way. She fully publicizes her femininity, and at the same time she practices this feature of femininity, which is the so-called distrust of male phallic authority. This, like the way she dealt, I think it was a masterstroke of public relations. The way she dealt, you remember that orgy of community organizer. All of a sudden, Obama appeared as a kind of what in psychoanalysis we call phallus as a fake, as a semblance, fake authority, and so on. This very sarcastic undermining, I think, effectively something new emerged here. Even more important, if we put again, if we put the glasses on, don't forget, and that's where things get complicated for me. At a certain level, I don't have time to do a more detailed analysis now, but I think it's clear that all this talk about change, no? If you put the glasses on, the message is, of course, change means we will change things so that they will basically remain the same. No? I mean, it's absolutely clear. No? But here things get more complicated. First, here I think the pact that Republicans are proposing to ordinary Americans is a pretty obscene one. And I claim this is not pact, that's not crucial. This is not a dark plot, a secret. That's the part which is, if I put it in these terms, explicitly proposed between the lines to the people. It's, okay, they appear to refer to your populism, like their basic referent, enough of, all these stupidities, enough of Washington, enough of great corrupted central administration, and so on, less taxes, less state, and so on and so on. I claim that the message between the lines is, don't take it seriously, let's have a nice explosion, but nonetheless, we have the backroom boys who will do the proper job. The message is the opposite one, is trust us, we will do discreetly the proper job. Which is why I were to be able to talk with John McCain. I wouldn't ask him these stupidities like, are you sincere or not, but who is your Karl Rove, like... Whenever you play this populist role, there must be a manipulator behind. That would be it. But the second thing, more important, is that nonetheless, things are not as easy as that. What I suspect is, whenever we have this kind of cynical manipulation, not cynical in the sense of tricking people, but cynical in the sense of, you can trust us. That's the basic message of Rival. Like, we play with working class mother, the first youth, hockey mom, whatever, but the basic message between the lines is, don't worry, we will do the same as before, everything will remain the same. But words are never just words. What worries me really is that they will really change something for much worse. What worries me is that they sincerely, cynically think that it will be just the same show going on. Because this kind of a Republican revolution, it repeats itself every, 7-8 years. I remember when Newt Gingrich became speaker. It was the same. It was on the cover of Newsweek Time. Revolution, enough of... But what if they will really change something? I hope they just manipulate. That's the sad thing. If they don't just manipulate, if they really want to change things in the direction into which they point, that's the real danger. The real danger is that they mean it seriously. I'm sorry if I was too long. Thank you very much. To play the game of let's pretend that we are in democracy. But now I'm glad to tell you that I was informed that because there is a movie later and so on, we should go to book signing immediately. So I succeeded in my plot. With all my worse than Republican hypocrisy, I can tell you now, I'm so sad that we don't have the time for it. I'm sorry, so that's there we go now. But I promise you something more seriously. Boston is close to New York, I'm often here, so let's do it again, no? Let's repeat the experience again.